This is Seasons of Discontent with your hosts Rick Snyder and Matt Combs.
Welcome to Seasons of Discontent, Season 11, Episode 27, brought to you by Rick Snyder's Washington across social media, and I'm Rick Snyder.
And I'm Matt.
And we're back discussing all things Washington sports and life with the mighty Rick Snyder Empire. We got one more next week, and that's it for this year. Thank goodness. But come off of just say the news, because Dan Quinn just had a presser. So I'm going to throw it in there. They did cut Greg Joseph. They didn't need an extra kicker. Poor guy just had a kid the other day. And Lattimore and Wiley, we don't know about their injuries until Thursday because the team normally is off Tuesday. They're going to practice Tuesday, be off Wednesday for Christmas. Nice. And then Thursday, everybody's back on the field. And that's when they know more about Lattimore and that hamstring. And Wiley, I'm not sure what happened to him. So, okay. All right. So much for the news. And Luke McCaffrey, I think, is going to be their kick returner for a while. Okay.
As he should.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, as he should.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You look good. All right. So they beat the Philadelphia Eagles in one of the wilder games I've ever seen it at the mighty Northwest, 36-33. I'd say the crowd was a couple people more Eagles than Commanders, but pretty close. So it was a pretty raucous atmosphere. And it's always that anyway with Eagles fans, Eagles fans. So it was just back and forth. There were times, okay, Washington's down 7-0. Jalen gets hurt, the new guy comes in, makes it 14-0, and you're thinking, oh, crap, it's going to be one of those days. And, they managed to get ahead 28-27. You're thinking, wow. But then, of course, they do dumb stuff, and they're down. But 6 seconds to go, JD is becoming a legend already. He's not even done with his first season. Became the first quarterback since the 1966 AFL-NFL merger to throw 4 touchdowns in the final 30 seconds of a game or overtime. Wow. I mean, I knew he was going to be good, but he's even better than I thought. And it was 30 degrees more or less on that field. So enough of that cold weather, quarterback stuff too.
Yeah.
5 touchdowns, 2 picks, which is why I did not give him an A in my grades. So you haters, because, when you throw picks and it costs points, it comes off the charts. But I thought overall, it's just amazing. The first quarter, Barkley gets 109 yards and then gets like 35 afterwards, hitting the backfield 5 times, most in any game. They basically decided, we'll let that rookie beat us if they have to. We're going to shut down Barkley. Did Washington get lucky that Jalen Hurts was out? Sure, but that's football for you. Mm-hmm. How many times are going the other way? So I thought overall it said one thing to me. They can win in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'll preface what I'm going to say with this. If Jalen Hurts plays the entire game, it is a completely different game because the element that Jalen Hurts brings to the Philadelphia Eagles, where you have to compensate for his legs as well as his arm being able to beat you. His running ability opens up the passing or the running game for Saquon Barkley. When he went out, they became more one-dimensional. They forced Kenny Pickett to throw and to beat them, and they just lined up with 8 in a box against Barkley. It's very simple. If they're only queuing on one offensive scheme, then of course they're going to hit him in the backfield. But I will say this. Brian Robinson, two fumbles, 2 interceptions by Jaden Daniels, and De'Ami Brown, 1 fumble. That's 5 turnovers that they overcame. Now, like I said, granted, it's Kenny Pickett. They only turned 2 of those. They only turned points off of 2 of those, and it was only 2 field goals. But for the ability for this team to overcome a 5 turnover game and to still be in position to win with 6 seconds left, that's pretty damn impressive if you ask me. It shows the kid has already made a highlight tape, and we're not even done his first full season. And I know a lot of people want to bring up Mr. Griffin from 2012. This is a completely different player. This is a completely different outcome, and this is a completely different team at this point. So we're not going to even draw the comparisons to Robert. But I will say this. Rick, if they can overcome a turnover game and go punch for punch with the number one, they've played the number one and number two ranked defenses in the NFL this year. They beat the Eagles by 3 points, 30, and they scored 36 on that number one defense. I don't remember how much money or how many points they scored on Tennessee. It was like 40 something, and that was the number two ranked defense in the league at the time. So they're not afraid of these top tier defenses. I mean, he's locked up Rookie of the Year, obviously. I mean, he'll probably end up breaking Ben Roethlisberger's Pepsi Rookie, the Pepsi Rookie of the Week honors. He'll probably end up breaking that this week with his 9th or 10th. The kid is they didn't miss, and that's exactly what this team needed. They didn't miss, and they couldn't have missed. The guy in Chicago might be good, but they've missed so far on what they're doing with him because they're 4-11.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to compare Jaden to Robert. Jaden's better.
Oh, he's way better.
I mean, Robert had some speed. Robert had a good rookie year, no doubt. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Robert didn't have the accuracy. Robert didn't have the ability to make plays down the field with his arm. He had long throws. Let's not forget his first pass or his touchdown to Pierre Garçon against New Orleans. What was it, like a 60, 70-yard pass? But Garçon ran for 50 of it. You know, he's dropping dimes in guys' laps. And the touchdown to Terry McLaurin, for Terry to track that ball the way that he did against such a highly touted corner that they drafted in the first round this year, Quinyon Mitchell, that was a hell of a play. Terry, if I know Jaden's the MVP of this team, but Terry, man, that guy, this is his breakout year. This is where we start to finally talk outside of the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia of Terry being a top 10 wide receiver, because he's been disrespected ever since he came in the league. Now it's showing, hey, this dude is he's as good than most of the wide receivers in the league that he's compared to.
I mean, I run a magazine that comes out here and there. It's called Command Post. And I was just talking in the press box yesterday with a couple of old writers. Who do you think the offensive MVP is here? I said, I know we want to say Jaden real quick, but Terry's been terrific. And we're debating it back and forth like you can't pick one. I said, I think we're going to name them both. We're going to make Jaden to Terry the offensive players of the year because one is with the other. You know, they're good. You know, so we're just going to split the vote, I guess. But, you know, is Jaden Sonny? There's something to think about, because if I had to say who's the next best quarterback, we're going past. We're going past Rippon. We're going past the Heisman, I think, if I'm just based on this sample. And I'm looking at Sonny because two things remind me of Sonny. He does have the same kind of arm. Sonny can make any throw, and so can Jaden pretty much. And they both understand the game so well. You know, Jaden really understands the game well, what's supposed to be going on at such a quick age, where Sonny had a lot of years before we really saw that. He reminds me a lot of Sonny that way. I mean, if you talk to Sonny even nowadays, which I'm lucky enough to do once in a while, and you say, what was going on with this problem? He goes, did you see this? I mean, Sonny can cut it to a quick. Here's what's wrong, you know, on something. And Jaden, you know, he played that way. Sonny had Charlie Taylor, a Hall of Famer, Bobby Mitchell, Hall of Famer, and Jerry Smith, who should have been a Hall of Famer, and it's not because he was gay and they didn't want to vote for him. I mean, yeah, that was a hell of an offense that couldn't win football games because the defense would always give up 30.
Right.
I think Jaden is probably that guy. He's probably the best guy since it. And I said I wasn't in the Caleb Williams business in the very beginning. And I agree with you. He's had an okay season, but if I'm Chicago, man, you could have had it all and you missed it.
Yep. Yeah, and the thing that's most impressive is, like we've talked about in the past, you know, Jaden had a phenomenal start to the season. He hit a dip, and the way that he's been able to come out of that dip and perform the way that he is, you know, Rick, he could reach damn near 30 touchdown passes this year. When's the last Redskins Washington football team quarterback to throw for 30 touchdowns?
That would be Sonny, who threw for 30.
Bingo.
Yeah, that's a team record.
And that's the thing too. This is also a new, you know, I know we talk about the new culture and the new, you know, the new ownership and all this stuff that's new. the one thing that's new with this team is going to be quarterback driven. This team has never been quarterback driven since probably Sonny Jurgensen. You think about the Gibbs era. He won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. They tried to get the long-term solution with Robert Griffin and Jason Campbell and all these guys, but they flamed out. This team has never they've always been this is a place where you come after you've established yourself as a winner, or you're towards the end of your career, a la McNabb, Alex Smith, stuff like that. Jeff George. I mean, if you want to go back that far, this team is now quarterback centric. This team, when you think Washington Commanders, or you see a Washington Commanders hat as a non-football fan, you think, oh, well, that's who Jaden Daniels plays for, right? That's Jaden Daniels' team, right? Like, that's what we're getting into with this kid. And I said it yesterday. I was talking to somebody, and actually, what's his name? He was rumored to be the GM here, Louis Riddick. He said the same thing on Twitter. The rookie campaign that Jaden Daniels, he has not only flipped the culture, he's not only flipped the image of this team. What he has done is he has made this place desirable. They have $80 million in cap space next year. This team is going to be desirable for free agent veterans to come to, because they want to hop on the hot bandwagon. They want to win. You know what I mean? Those guys with that "we need to win now" mentality. This performance this year is going to do something that we've never seen before.
But I forgot my second point earlier, but I remember now. It's Jaden. When you have a quarterback like Jaden, you are never out of a game. You always have a chance, and they showed it here. There's no way they were going to win this game at times, and he did it. I mean, Jaden is a lot. I thought about it yesterday. He reminds me of the character Cool Hand Luke. Mm-hmm. It's like crisis all around you. The building's on fire. People are going nuts, and he's like, "We got it," and he goes out there and does it.
Yeah,
it's just amazing the coolness this kid has had. He just turned 24 last week. He's smooth. I mean, this guy's like Bailey in a way. He has that kind of quiet confidence, just going out and do it. No big thing. He cursed the other day in a presser and then apologized to his mom. It was kind of funny. It's like,
and that's one of the things that we've seen. Like, if you want to think back to all the way to when they hired Dan Quinn, you and I were not fully on board with Dan Quinn. We weren't fully on board with a retread and all those things. We wanted the hot guy. We wanted the offensive coordinator from Detroit, or the one down in Houston, the guy that made CJ Stroud a MVP in his rookie season. We wanted those hot names. I see a lot of Dan Quinn or a lot of Jaden Daniels in Dan Quinn, and I see a lot of Dan Quinn in Jaden Daniels. Both those guys are just so even-keeled and poised on the sidelines. They don't get down on their guys. Me, Joe Schmo on Twitter, is calling for Brian Robinson to be benched after he had – oh, there you go. You love Dairy Queen, not Dan Quinn. But no, my me – Joe Schmo on Twitter, I'm fighting for Brian Robinson to be benched after he fumbled twice. The next series, Brian Robinson was out there carrying the ball. The end of the game, to get a pivotal first down to get them closer and have a shot at the end zone, Brian Robinson got that first down. Dan Quinn is not going to give up on his guys, and he's not going to change his game plan just because you make a mistake. And Jaden's not going to get down on these guys. The only thing that annoys me kind of about Jaden is he's a little too friendly with the other guys with the guys wearing the other jerseys. He did have a nice little exchange with Jaden Carter, who he juked out of his shoes on one play, and then Carter tried to knock the ball off the ground when they were spiking it. They had a fun little moment there, but Jaden he's not a trash talker, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, it got a little heated out there. One of the Philly guys got thrown out of the game
I want to know what he said.
I don't know, but he must have used the bad language if that
There was definitely, I think he hit the nuclear bomb of words, probably.
Okay, so Lattimore gets to play. His first game against New Orleans, they only throw once at him. But on this one, they're coming at him hot and heavy. And I thought he made a bunch of really nice plays, especially early in the game. Then he gets the first bogus pass interference call. I thought that was bad. Then you got two more that maybe were a little more justified. But you've had three pass interference calls in a short time. And then the next thing we know, he's in the blue tent with his hamstring. And I'm like, so Quinn wouldn't talk about it on Monday. He doesn't like to talk to the trainers before us. That way he can say anything.
Yeah.
But
You can hide.
yeah. So we'll know Thursday about that. But
well, and Lattimore and Brown have had a history. But that was why Marshawn was brought here. That's why they went out and got that type of guy. He has a lot of history with a lot of top wide receivers, and they need that guy that's going to go out there and not give a crap about S talking or any of that stuff. They want a guy that's going to go out there and perform. And Lattimore performed well. I agree with you. Two of those PIs were very ticky-tacky. The one, okay, I get it, but like I said, he's had a history with Brown. Of course, now they get to play 2 times a year, every year.
I mean, they're both playing to the crowd because there was fans of both sides there. But you notice when Lattimore came out, St. Juice went in, and things didn't go very well again.
I know. I'm sure St. Juice is a nice guy, but he ain't got a spot on this roster for me.
No, not next year. No. All right, let's switch over to RFK. Another Hail Mary came to Washington because it was supposed to be part of this big continuing resolution to give D.C. control of RFK Stadium for 99 years. And for all of you out there who keep yelling, you don't want federal money to billionaires, I agree with you on that. But the only thing this bill does is take the RFK lease from about 13 more years left to 99. It doesn't say anything else. The city may put in money. This may not even happen. Who knows? There's a lot of – it now has to go to – well, let's put it this way. Harris has to cut a deal with the mayor. That's the simple part. And that's if they decide not to take Maryland's offer, which is coming hot and heavy too. Then the city council, a 13-member, has to pass it by a simple majority for all the money. But the city council controls the money, is hard-pressed to – just gave $500 million to Teddy. And I know there's a handful of these guys who have already said, I'm not doing it. I want affordable housing. How much housing? How many new people are coming in? How do we keep building everything? Look at Southern Maryland. My God, we've probably added 20,000 houses down here in the last 2 years. Who's coming? But, okay, they want to make something nice. They want it more than a stadium. Okay, I give you that. You're going to both have – it's going to be both worlds are going to get money here. But, right now, I don't know. And I look back, I tell you how hard it's going to be. When the Nats came, they had to secure funding for a new stadium. What do you think? Baseball's been gone 30 years. Everybody wants the Nationals to come back, right? Well, it was a 7-6 vote, and Marion Barry had to strong arm that vote. He was the last one, but they had to bribe everybody. Everybody got projects for the neighborhood, which is what's going to have to happen here too. We're going to give you all this money. But it's not a simple thing. It's not a 13-0 coming at you. It's going to be another 7-6 kind of vote, because then everybody gets more for their vote on there. So I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying it's not a clean thing. It's not a straight line that's going to happen.
Well,
here.
and a couple things real quick to kind of piggyback off of, well, as we talked about, Vincent Gray is not going to be voting. That's a proponent. That's a check. That would have been a check in the Commander's favor.
He'll be off the board in about a week.
Oh, okay. He's retired. Yeah. So whoever takes his place, but like I said, Vincent Gray, that he was instrumental when the Nats actually did come. He was mayor at the time. So, this is when we need a Marion Barry type of guy. This is when we need Marion to go in there and say, hey, look, you're voting yes. I don't care. But I'll say this. DC could sit there and claim that they want all this low-income housing. Go drive down Suitland Parkway and look where Berry Farms used to stand. And they're tearing it down, and they're building $2 million condos. That's not affordable housing. That's you being greedy. You want more money influxed into your city. They don't care about the cheap housing anymore. They're pushing them into Maryland, and they're pushing them over into Virginia. They want all the revenue. They want all the high dollar money coming in. They don't care about low-income housing. I don't want to hear that. I do believe this will get passed. When Roger Goodell, Josh Harris, Mark Ein, all these guys walk into the Senate and for their meetings, and they've already been meeting with Muriel Bowser. This will get done, whether it's good. I'll be honest with you, Rick. I don't know how much of DC money, taxpayer money, will be rolled into this. I think that they will find a way to somehow bring in an outside investor into building this stadium.
Here's the question. I have a video up on Rick Snyder's Washington about. Let's just say that the Commanders do come back to the site and they're going to play. What's the stadium called? Because you're going to want a corporate sponsor to put in a few $100 million.
Yeah, it'll be Busch Light Stadium at RFK Field or something.
And what is everybody going to call it?
RFK.
Yeah. So why do I want to be Busch Light putting all my money in there if everybody's going to call it RFK? That's going to be a really interesting thing to come down the road. That's probably.
Hey, let me ask you, what's the sponsor for Arrowhead? It's Gayha. Do you know what Gayha is?
No, I hate to
I think it's insurance. I'm not sure, but everybody calls it Arrowhead. Soldier Field. All these teams. Lambeau's the only one that doesn't have a corporate sponsor. Hell, you go to Northwest Stadium and they still call it FedEx Field. Come on, man. I mean, I think a stadium just, the corporate sponsor of a stadium, they just want their name on the side of the building so they can put big pictures of it in their lobbies. Let me ask you this. You don't even know, you and I don't know what Gayha is. Is it going to make you Google and go sign up for insurance with Gayha? No,
I had to look up what Northwest was to be
honest. Credit union.
I didn't know they were a credit union. I don't have them. I didn't know that at all. So at least they got that for it. But everyone's going to call it RFK. And will they take RFK off? Well, listen, the place is called, I have a video on this long ago. The short story is LBJ has to take over for John F. Kennedy when he's killed. Keeps most of Kennedy's cabinet. Lyndon B. Johnson and John F. Kennedy hated each other's guts. But it was a political marriage. They didn't like each other at all. And the cabinet decided when Johnson was just finishing up his last term, they decided to stay. OBJ said, I want you to name the stadium for me. And the cabinet got together in a classic Washington political screw you job and named it RFK because he had just died recently, just to screw Johnson. And because the Department of Interior runs it, they didn't need the president's approval on anything. They literally ran it through hours before Johnson's out of office, and it's Nixon. And then they call him up on his cell phone as he's driving to the Capitol for the inauguration. And Johnson had one of the first cell phones you ever heard about in the car. And they said, that new stadium? He goes, yeah, you're going to name it for me, right? When I'm out of office? He couldn't do it while he was president. They said, nah, we're going to do RFK. Screw you, click. And, Teddy Kennedy protected RFK's name. Like when the baseball team came, people wanted to change RFK. And he says, over my dead body, but he is now dead. So maybe there's a little less emphasis on it, although it is named for U.S. Senator. And let me tell you something. If they bring a football team and build that stadium, you're going to see lots of U.S. senators at the game. Okay, they used to. I'll say that. You used to see them all the time. So that's their playpen. So they want to still keep RFK there too. It's really an interesting dynamic of what happens. I haven't been by the building close enough to see if the statue is still there. It was like a year ago. They have a big bust of them. The one at the Kennedy Center.
I know Channel 4 did a flyover with Chopper 4, and it's all weeds.
Yeah, you can just drive on up and park your car and walk on over. I mean, there's nothing going on. No. The land that was developed at that area of town was RFK, all right, in 1961. I don't know what they're going to do to the armory. I haven't seen that yet on the plans. There's all kind of plans people have.
The armory's there in the new plans. Well, these are the ones I saw on Twitter. I think you actually posted. They were the old plans from a few years ago when they had thought they were getting the property, or DC was trying to get the property back initially. It did include the armory, which the armory is just as old as RFK. I mean, it's a dump. I know that there's all this, like, there was like a park and a paddle boat area and stuff like that. Rick, I want the moat. We need to go back and we need bring Dan Snyder and Bruce Allen back. I need a moat. And I need a guy surfing in the moat, like in the artist rendering.
Yeah. Well, they're going to put lots of stuff on that end of town, and that's great. I think it's a win-win for everybody, and you'll
Yeah.
get a covered stadium. So I think Goodell would have been telling the Senate, I'll bring a Super Bowl here eventually. Those kind of things. I mean, it's all good.
Yeah.
Is it any good sitting out in Landover? Nah, not really.
I wanted to talk to you about Maryland's side. You and I are both Maryland residents. Wes Moore is our governor. He's the one that's really only been talking about this. Wes Moore is a Baltimore-centric guy. I believe he was the vice mayor of Baltimore or something. He held some chair up there in Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken. For those of you that don't live in this area, Baltimore and the rest of Maryland are two completely different things. Baltimore is, if you're from Baltimore, you're Baltimore. It's Anne Arundel County. It's that up there. We're Maryland. We're PG. We're Calvert, St. Mary's, Charles. That's what we are. We're that Maryland. We're the Marylanders that would go with DC. You know what I mean? The other Maryland, that's the northern part. I know the state of Maryland promised all that money to rehab Pimlico. I don't know where that's at right now. I'm sure M&T Bank is going to need a refresh here within the next couple years because that's been the Ravens' home since they moved here. Oriole Park at Camden Yards, they've talked about some upgrades being done there in order to keep this. That was part of the deal that the Orioles worked out with the state and with the city to have them remain in Baltimore for the next 30 years. There's a lot of money for Maryland that is already spoken for, I would say. I think it's all talk with Wes Moore. I think he would love to keep the Commanders here, but I don't think it's feasible. I think there is one, and Virginia's already bowed out. There's one spot and one spot only, and this was the first hurdle in getting them back there.
Yeah, I mean, I know they'd like to keep it, but I don't think they'll go to the end of the earth about it because a lot of this reverts to PG County control. That's how Cook set it up was, when the lease is done, PG County will gain control and the team doesn't have to leave. They have to pay more rent, I guess. But, the state of Maryland was glad to put all this infrastructure in that Landover area because they knew one day it would revert to something else and it was already there. So got it done a lot cheaper than we would have today. So they'll talk about it. And listen, Harris will use it against DC. There's no doubt of that. Mm-hmm. You got two players that, Maryland will do the deal if you really want to do the deal.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, I don't know how long I've been talking about stadiums. I think I was writing about stadiums in the early 90s. So like 30 years now. It follows the same kind of script. People change, the calendar changes, but people really don't. So I think it'll be the same pattern. They'll argue back and forth. You'll read stories that say it's going to DC, and the next day I'll go, oh, DC thing failed. They're going to Maryland. It's going to go back and forth.
Well, you just remember earlier this year we heard that there's all this land out in Loudoun County that they're going to build a stadium, and that's where the Commanders are going. It's a done deal. Then we heard, oh, it's going to Woodbridge, it's going to Dumfries, it's going to Southern Virginia. No, it's not. That was all a play. It's a play to get it back to DC. With Maryland, you want to talk about the DC people. Oh, well, low-income housing. We need low-income housing, even though we're building $2 million houses that low-income people can't afford. Take the Landover site, bulldoze the stadium, put your housing there. Work that out with PG. And you're right. That whole Landover area, the mall is gone, so there's a lot of money has been taken out of that area because of the mall being gone. The sport and learning complex is really the only thing there. There's 2 or 3 abandoned shopping centers right there off of 202 that I can think of, where like the Circuit City used to be, right there by Bright Seat Road. There's a ton of stuff. Palmer Park needs a refresh. Needs a little, there's a lot of stuff over there that needs a little bit of a refresh. You tie all that in, you get the stadium and that property, and you tie it all into some sort of a rehab Landover project. Because it's funny, just on the other side of the Beltway, you got Woodmore. Woodmore is expensive. Literally just on 202, right over the Beltway is Woodmore. That's an expensive area. You can trickle that down a little bit, and that's the thing, Rick. Now you're gonna have Landover Mall. You have the Landover Mall site. Now you're gonna add FedEx Field site to that. It's just it's all right there to be made. It's just, if I were Maryland and as a Maryland taxpayer, I would want to see my money going to revitalizing that area, providing housing for people to live in that isn't astronomically expensive, but also give them luxuries. You know what I mean? Give them a grocery store so they don't have to go down, 10 minutes down the road. Give them, there's already a couple metro stops right there for people to get to work if they work in DC. I mean, it could be a very popular area if they just developed it correctly and put the stadium in DC, put it down in Southeast where it belongs, and then change the name. I think that's the plan.
All right, before we get out of here, we always
Although, hey, I will say this to stick to your point. If they end up winning the damn Super Bowl before that stadium's finished, the name's staying.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we're going to pick the game because we always do. I'm going to go Washington 32, Atlanta 13. I figured this was a butt kicking. And then with doing this, they'll clinch their playoffs. They could still end up being, the sixth seed. I think that's probably as high as they can go, and that's a combination of who wins what. There's a chance they could win the NFC East. So
Say that.
Both. They'd have to go 2-0. Philly goes 0-2. They got a tiebreaker on the NFC East records. I don't expect that to happen, but I think that they'll knock out Atlanta, and I think they'll go out to Dallas and beat them, and go into the playoffs as a team nobody wants to face.
Well, I will say this: not only did they beat the Eagles, they also eliminated the Cowboys and the 49ers. So, Jaden Daniels is 3 for 3 yesterday. But I'm with you. I always shoot this team low. I think I only picked them to score 17 points against the Eagles. I'm kind of with you. I'll go Washington 31. I'll give Atlanta 20. 31-20. Michael Penix is in now. If Kirk was in there, I would definitely think it's going to be 13 because Kirk has turned into an interception machine. Michael Penix is in there now. This will be his second game. There's a little bit more tape on him. I'm sure Joe Witt and Dan Quinn are in there studying his tape from yesterday. He didn't do anything amazing. He maintained their defense won that game for him. Yeah. So you can't have the mistakes that you had against the Eagles against Atlanta's defense because they will make you pay. But yeah, I'm with you. I'll say 31-20 Washington.
Yeah, the best thing about after beating the Eagles is the next morning when you get to hear all the radio stations from Philly. Oh man, they're crazy.
Oh man, the best one on Twitter and TikTok and everything last night was, "Oh yeah, well, congratulations for beating Kenny Pickett." Hey, did we all complain and say, "Well, congratulations for beating Garrett Gilbert during the COVID game on a Thursday night where the NFL forced us to play with a guy that came in the day before?"
Yeah, I just heard some of the sports talk stations up there, people losing their minds. And I thought, come on now, you won 10 straight.
Oh, they won Frankie Louvu suspended. They won what was it? They won they definitely won Louvu suspended. They want De'Ami Brown burned at the stake for getting what's his name, Gardner Johnson tossed. Trust me. And the best one is, well, good, congratulations beating Kenny Pickett. We'll get a better backup. Hey, guess what? You had Marcus Mariota. He came in and filled in when Jaden Daniels got hurt, and he put up 40 on the Panthers. You could have kept him.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So it's our last show before Christmas.
Philly fans are the worst.
It is funny to listen to them. All right. So Christmas is coming. You've got a little kid, so you're Santa time. I've got grandkids that age. So I'll just tell a quick Christmas story from the weekend before we go. I had a big family Christmas party. A lot of my cousins here in Washington on here. And my cousin had Santa come bring gifts for the kids, very generous. And it looked like a real Santa. So my two granddaughters, who are each 7, they got something really nice. And they go, "What'd you get, Grandpa?" And I said, "I didn't get anything." I said, "I'm on the naughty list. Santa's not bringing me anything." And they were just devastated by it. They haven't gotten old enough to know I'm full of bull. And they were like, "Oh no." I mean, they were upset. And I said, "Well, okay." And when I realized how bad they really took this, I thought, okay, Santa said I got a couple of days till Christmas. I can get out of this hole. So but they were just really upset with me.
Let me ask you this. Obviously I know your daughters very well. We kind of grew up together. Do either one of them do the elf?
Yeah, both of them, just to keep those kids in line.
I am so glad my wife said no to the elf. because I can't stand the thing. I think it's creepy as hell. And it's a pain in the ass on the parents, if you ask me. We do not do the elf on the shelf, but my son does have one in his classroom. He is severely freaked out by this thing, but my kid's actually a pretty good kid, and the 18-year-old, she knows about the elf on the shelf. But yeah, no, I'm so glad we didn't have to do the elf.
There you go. Next week you can tell us what you got him. I don't want your boy to hear what it is ahead of time because I know he watches.
He quick story, just because it's a heartfelt moment. Every once or twice a week, I'm out in the garage recording this podcast with Rick, and he's getting a little bit more interested in technology. He likes to type on my computer and play on the computer and move the mouse. He's 6, because they're teaching him that. He has computer class once a week in school. So I'm out here and I'm working on the show and I'm editing and everything and getting ready to post it. And, he's in the YouTube era. He goes on YouTube Kids and he watches people play Minecraft, and then he goes and plays Minecraft. He watches people play Roblox, and then he goes and plays Roblox. So he asked me one time, he goes, "Well, Daddy, what is this?" And I said, "Well, this is a show where Mr. Rick and I talk about the Washington," he calls them the Redskins, the Washington Commanders. He goes, "Oh, well, where is it?" I said, "It's on YouTube." He goes, "Daddy, you're on YouTube?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm on YouTube." So I'm a star in my son's eyes, which is great. So thanks for that, Rick. But I go, after I wrap up the show, I go back and I walk past his room and I hear, "Hi, I'm Rick Snyder and I'm Matt and this is Seasons of Discontent." And I look over and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm watching you. I found you." And I'm like, "Oh my dear Lord." So yes, my son does watch the podcast from time to time.
Yeah. My grandkids, some of them watch a little bit, but they don't care. Or I'll be on News Channel 8, wherever we call it now. Things like that, they don't care.
He claims he roots for the Commanders and he claims he roots for the Penguins, and he likes both mommy and daddy's baseball teams because my wife's an Orioles fan and I like the Nationals. He likes both of our baseball teams. He always asks who we're rooting for, what color. But he actually did come in yesterday and sit down and watch. I was watching Buffalo and New England last night, and he actually asked me, he was like, "Daddy, what's the NE?" And I said, "It's New England." I said, their old quarterback was Tom Brady. And he goes, "Oh yeah, Brady, like me." And I was like, "Yes, like you." So yeah, he's starting to understand sports and he's starting to comprehend. So it's pretty cool.
Great. Next thing you know, he'll want to go to Defenders games.
Hey, as long as I ain't got to talk to God like we did last time. Good Lord, that was a hike.
Yeah, we went up, like, if you ever been to Audi Field in DC, I'm not lying. It's like 50 rows up. I mean, easy. And then Matt later says, "There's an elevator over there." Oh, great.
No, my dad said that. My dad found it.
Man, I'll just say the beer vendor had to go down halfway to get it to use the credit card machine, get the Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, up there. It's a cool stadium, but next time
and it's not like we had cheap tickets. Like, we weren't at the top of the stadium. We were in the middle of the stadium, but it was a hike. I swear, Rick, I was having a conversation with God at one point. I was that close to him.
Yeah, and I'm the old man trying to get up it.
That was a good time. And then the world went to chaos.
Yeah, because when I got home and I started puking. So
well, not only that, but like 2 weeks later, COVID happened, and we were 14 days to flatten the curve, and then 14 days turned into 2 years.
Oh yeah, I know. I got laid off by Sports Illustrated. It's just going to be a couple months max.
Yeah,
I heard from.
Are you back?
As a matter of fact, I'm being laid off next week. When we do the show next week, I'll say goodbye to my other employer, as we keep going. But people hopefully will keep watching this. Thank all of you for that. I hope everybody has a great holiday. We'll see you next week before the year ends.
Yep, everybody, Merry Christmas. Hope you get everything you want for Christmas. Spend time with your family and have a good day. And we will see you guys next week.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Seasons of Discontent with your hosts, Rick Snyder and Matt Combs.